Welcome to week 2 of a series that we're doing where I'm walking you through the things that are most needed for you to lose weight sustainably and actually keep it off. Okay. So, I asked this last week. I'll probably ask it often, but how many of you have lost weight before and then gained it back? Type a one in the chat. Let me know. I want to make sure we're still talking to the right people. How many of you have lost weight before only to gain it back? Yeah, 100%.
Lots of ones in the chat.
Yeah, I've got both arms up, both feet up. I just put them back down really quickly so I didn't fall because I've been there before and I've done that. I bought that t-shirt. A little bit of backstory on me. For those of you who don't know my story, I grew up in this wonderful land called Mississippi. Okay. And inside of Mississippi, if you don't know, we like food. We love food. In the house that I grew up in, you would turn veggies that were worth basically 50 calories into a good 500 calorie dish by throwing a whole stick of butter in there and bacon and fatback and salt meat and all of it. We would turn potatoes that by themselves are not, super calorically dense, especially based on volume. We would turn potatoes into fried potatoes. Anybody got some grandparents that just love the cast iron skillets? My grandpa would be in the kitchen and he would like put a bunch of oil in his cast iron skillet, dice up potatoes, throw those bad boys in there and fry them up along with eggs that were literally bubbling inside a vat of oil. So we were having fried eggs. Anyway, we would turn foods that were lower calorie into extremely high calorie. Like if you were to just eat eggs by themselves and, some potatoes by themselves, like maybe air fried or something like that, and just barely greasing a pan or something, be super low calorie and it would make you full. Whereas if you would eat it the way that we ate growing up, you just eat more and you just want more. And it's because it's so hyper palatable, it just overtakes your body's sense of satiety. And so that's what the world that I grew up in. So gosh, I was mid-teenage years topping out weights at about 5'10" and 240 plus pounds the last time I weighed at a doctor. I was really, really hefty, never trained, never exercised, never did anything. Literally, that was my life. But then something happened my senior year, and I decided I got to do something about this. And so I did. And with the help of two friends just encouraging me and not letting me get away with my excuses, I dropped 50 pounds in 6 months and changed my life forever. But it didn't stop there. About a year later, I bounced back really hard because how many knows 50 pounds in 6 months is pretty fast, right? It's pretty quick. So what I learned is if when you lose weight really quickly, you have a tendency to gain that weight back even quicker than you lost it. And some of you have been there before. That was me. My senior year, dropped that weight really fast. Then all of a sudden, about a year later, gained it back in half the time that I lost it. And then here comes emotions. Here comes all of the other things that like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this again. And then you try to do the same thing that you did last time and it doesn't produce the same results. How many of you have you've seen results before, you lost weight before, and then you gained it back, and then you went back to do the same thing that you tried before and it didn't produce the same result? Let me know in the chat. You can type a 1 to make it easy for you with your fingers, but let me know if that's you.
There's already ones popping up.
Yeah. 100%. And there's a reason for this that we're going to kind of talk about tonight. There's a reason for this. The reason for this is that our metabolisms, they tend to adapt. Your body, whether or not you know it or not, is extremely smart. Whether or not you feel smart in your brain, in your minds, and by the time you leave, time with us, I hope that every one of you feel empowered and encouraged and positive, encouraging K-love and all that stuff. But whether or not you know it or not, your body is extremely smart. So when you do something the first time, highly effective. The first time you go into a deficit, the first time you start working out, the first time you exercise, the first time you do anything, extremely effective. The body learns really quickly. So if you try to go back to it, not as effective as the last time, okay? So then we get into this cycle. So you gain the weight back again, and then it's like, okay, well, now you have in your mind, well, that doesn't work. So then we pick another modality to lose weight. So the first thing that you did, whatever it is, you did something, it worked. You tried it again. It worked a little bit, but not as effective. Then you gain the weight back again. And then you're like, well, that doesn't work anymore. So I need to try something different. So you try something different. And then you find out, okay, this is working a little bit. Maybe you lose a little bit more than you did the previous time, but the same thing happens again and again and again. And I'm going to just go out on a limb here. I would assume that you still haven't found an ultimate solution. And you've probably had this same cycle happening for the last 10, 20, 30 years. If that's you, you're in a safe place. Type a one in the chat. I want to make sure I'm talking to you. This creates a cycle of not only you lose self-confidence in yourself, but you feel bad about yourself and you lose self-worth about yourself. And so it's really hard for you to even want to try something again. I was on a call with someone on Saturday, and the last thing I said to her before we got off our call is I said, we're going to call her Mrs. Jones. We're going to call her Mrs. Jones. I said, Mrs. Jones, I don't think that you're afraid of failure. And she said, I'm not. I said, no, I don't think you're afraid of failure. I think you're afraid of actually doing something that's going to cause you to succeed because you know failure. We all know failure. Failure is not a place that you've never been before. It's a place that's very familiar to you. So you're not actually afraid to fail. What we're typically afraid of is things that we have not achieved yet or have not seen yet, right? So I said, I think you're really afraid of succeeding for the first time in your life, that if you do this, then you will actually see the thing that you want to see and you've been wanting to see for decades. And then she began to cry. And I promise you, when I talk to people, I try not to make them cry. But when we talk like our body image and the places that we are in life, it's an emotional thing. And so our approach when we're working with clients and stuff is a mixture of grace, lends so much love, and then also a good boot in the butt because you need that sometimes. But it's always going to be given with a lot of love. I mean, I've got clients on here right now. You can drop in the chat and let everybody know that I'll give you love and a good kick every now and again. If that's you, come on, Sydney. I know you're going to be there. Come on. And give you a good boot, give you a lot of love, right? Because we got some good people that's inside of our one-on-one coaching. So we just try to give you both because what I realize is you don't need someone to yell at you. You don't need someone to beat you up. You don't need someone to come at you every single day or every single week because you're already thinking a lot of negative thoughts about yourself. The first place that we start is loving yourself where you are right now. You're the one making the decision right now to change your life. Love yourself now. We don't hate ourselves where we are. We don't hate the weight that we're at. We don't hate the person that we are. We don't hate that at all. Love yourself where you are because a person who loves themselves will create the right or will begin to produce the right behaviors and the lifestyle changes that will shift. I mean, you think about a child, you want a child to act right. Anybody got kids up in here? My daughter, she turns, I almost said 14, but today's the 14th. That's why it came to mind. But she turned 7 today. My little princess. She runs the world. If you didn't know, she runs your world too. You just don't know it yet, but she definitely runs mine. And when I want my daughter to change behavior, if I came at her the way that I think in my mind, that negative self-talk, if I came at her that same way that sometimes we come at ourselves with, she's not going to change. It's going to beat her down. It's going to kill her self-worth. It's going to diminish her fire, her spirit, her spark, the light that's in her. So when I want her to change and I want to correct her, I get on her level. I look her in the eye and I just start talking to her. Like, I love you. The things that we were doing, like whatever behavior, whatever thing she did, I start talking to her about those things. And then I just start calling out the good things that's inside of her and the way that she should be behaving versus the way that she was behaving, but from such a loving and encouraging standpoint, rather than just yelling at her, belittling her, calling her names, all that stuff. So one of the things, and this has nothing to do with the teaching, this is just like we're launching pad, and I'm going to go straight into that in a second. But one of the things that I teach clients is to talk to yourself like you would talk to your children. Talk to yourself the way that you would talk to your grandchildren. Speak to yourself the way that you would speak to those that you love the most. Because the way that you talk to them is not the way that you talk inside of your brain. I know that 100%. If I'm talking to you and you're brave, you can say, that's me. We got to change the self-talk. So last week is what we talked about, renewing the mind, shifting your mindset. This week, it's the foundations of fat loss that nobody talks about because everybody wants a result, right? Everybody wants to lose weight, right? Every time you've started something, it's what? Outcome focused, period. But tonight I want to give you something that's not sexy, something that's not fun, but I want to give you a visual and kind of teach you what you actually need. This is your outcome at the top. This is the outcome. When most people start their journey, they are only interested in the outcome. It's all they want is this. Okay. They just want the outcome, which is the tip top of the triangle. So when you're starting this, let's just say down here, this is like your starting position where you're beginning is right here on this corner. Okay. Most people they start and then immediately shoot for the goal, the outcome. They want to achieve this outcome, whether it's 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 10 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever it is, they want to achieve the outcome. The problem is this lower part right here, this part that is the base of the triangle is never built, which is why we call this the foundation of fat loss. Because no one builds the foundation, they only build this side and they just shoot for the outcome. So, what ends up happening is, like I just described a moment ago, what ends up happening is we end up creating little mountains like we see here. First time you lose weight, you hit a small outcome because you wouldn't be here tonight if you actually achieved your total outcome. So, what happens when we don't build a baseline? We end up with a small outcome. So you hit a pinnacle, you hit a target, you lose 10 pounds, you lose 20 pounds, whatever it is, you lose some weight. And then guess what? You just fall back down to the bottom because there is no base. If you look at these triangles, there's not a base present at the bottom. It's just the sides. You start and then you fall down. There's no base to keep you steady. There's no foundation for you to fall back to. So you're only focused on outcome. You hit your goal and then you quit it and forget it and you move on. So your life over time ends up looking like these triangles. So, this is just, let's just say it's a timeline. This is what it looks like. I lost weight. I hit my outcome right here. And then I gained it all back. I start back from ground zero. And then I do it again. It's a little bit less effective. And then I end up back at ground zero. Start again, way less effective, back at ground zero. I start again, I get consistent for a longer period of time, right? Because notice the larger your triangles get, the wider the base gets, which means time. Okay. So I'm consistent for a longer period of time. I see a better outcome and then I drop off again. And then we repeat this cycle over and over again throughout life because ultimately these little triangles, they never reach the top. They never reach your ultimate goal, whatever that is for you. You want to be lean. You want to fit in your clothes well. You want to step out of the shower, look in the mirror and feel great about yourself. You want to feel confident about yourself. You want to be able to go, like some of you this summer, you've been swimming and you didn't like what you looked like. You put on t-shirts, like all that stuff. You don't like those things. You're tired of having to cover up. You want to wear other like bikinis instead of, the one pieces and all the things. You have these different things that you desire. You're hiding in family photos. You're in the back, like all this stuff because you're not actually spending time to reach your goal. So the foundations of fat loss is instead of you being so outcome focused, instead of all this and shooting for, let's see, tools, let's throw a line in here. We're going to have some fun with it. All right. The way that we typically start is this is usually the journey is you're just building this straight line up, outcome focused, right? So instead of living this life where you build that up only to fall down on the other side and then have nowhere to fall to, right? Because there's no foundation. Don't judge my triangle. I'm building this one by scratch. So don't judge it. I don't want to hear it. I told you guys.
We're all judging, all of us.
Because this is what happens. It does look rough, but it is what it is. This is what happens. Like these little triangles here, you build, you hit some goal, you lose some weight, you probably stagnate out, life gets hard, whatever. And then you end up falling off, back down, but to where? Where do you fall to? Who knows? Because usually what happens is you lose weight and then you gain weight, but the weight that you gain back is typically more than you lost in the first place. Anybody ever seen that before? Let me know in the chat. Just want to check your temperature real quick. Put a thermometer in. You've lost weight, you gained it back, but then you gained back another 5 and 10 pounds on top of it. Drop a one in the chat or say that's me. Good, good, good. So instead of living a life like this, where it's literally an up and down, 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 crazy, whatever, instead of living like that, the foundations of fat loss looks like actually building what we call in the fitness industry a baseline, an actual baseline. Most of you, when it comes to eating right, eating well, and hitting your goals, most of you have always thought that I need to, when I start, I need to cut carbs. I need to go keto, carnivore, Weight Watchers, whatever. I need to start. When you start your journey, it's immediate. I need to do this and cut things out. That's where you start. Every single one of our clients, the reason they get such great success, like you saw in just the slideshow, which is only a fraction of the transformations that we have, because I don't have time to put all that stuff together. I need to do better with that. But the reason that they get such great success is because we don't start right here. We don't start with restriction. We don't start with taking things away from you. What we do from a biblical standpoint is we add things to your life. Why am I adding things to your life? Great question. I know you're asking, and I appreciate it. We add things to your life because we're trying to create a foundation where wherever you go, you can fall back to the foundation. You're never lost. You're never at a place to where you're questioning, where do I go after I lose the weight? Because we now know, right? How you start something is how you finish something. So when you start a fat loss journey, a weight loss journey, or whatever, you need to know where you're starting, because you don't know. If you don't know where you start, you don't know where you're going, right? Anybody ever heard, like, in history class, you need to know the history of your nation and all of that so that you don't repeat past mistakes? Anybody ever remember hearing that in history class?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's important to understand the history of the world and even in your country, all of that, so you don't end up repeating all the stuff. Well, why is that? Because you need to know where you've been, you need to know where you are now and where you're building from. So you always have a baseline, no matter what happens in your life, to go back to. And this is the piece, the key that is often, often missed. And like at the very beginning, I was talking about the reason why you end up losing and gaining the same way over and over again is because your body is really smart. There's this wonderful word called metabolism that if I pulled up a chart, it would be like calculus, but the metabolism is all encompassing of all of the systems in the body working synergistically together to help keep you alive. Okay. And every time you go into a fat loss phase to lose weight, you are stressing out your body, and your metabolism says, hey, they're doing this to me again. So we're going to adapt. And then we're going to adapt again. And we're going to adapt again and again and again. And so you stay in this rat race. So the first place that we start is, like I even said, it's a biblical principle of where we add things in. Because if you're a believer on the call, you understand that it's the goodness of God that draws men to repentance. That's how you get saved. It's not, hellfire and brimstone or something like that. It is the goodness of God that chases you down, that he loves you so much, all that. And when you come to know him, he adds things to your life. He doesn't take things away from your life. You don't have to get cleaned up. You don't have to get fixed up. You don't have to go figure it all out on your own. When you meet Jesus for the very first time in your life, he just adds value and such love and such grace to your life. And he gives you wonderful things to benefit from in him. And then what happens as a byproduct is you stop doing all the stupid stuff that maybe you did before, right? It's like, this is like gospel 101. Okay. Anybody know what I'm talking about? So we take the same principle, the same approach, because we need that foundation. Just like in your walk with God, your foundation is Jesus, right? At least it should be. If it's not, then, maybe you're not saved. You thought you were, now you're here and I can help you. Just go back to Jesus and now you're saved. You're on the right track. Okay. We fixed your salvation. Now let's fix your body. So we need to build this foundation. We build this foundation by doing what? We build this foundation by building. Let's type. Pull this down. This is going to be a combination of energy needs, okay? Energy needs, which is calories. I'm going to simplify all of this for you. Calories is not a crazy word. The word calorie means unit of measurement of energy. That's all. So it's not a crazy like word. It just literally means this is how we compute what goes into our bodies and how we describe like the energy that we expend. So it's the energy that we intake and the energy that we expend. So what we do with our clients first off is we figure out their energy needs. What do they need? How much do they need? Because like I said, most people never start a foundation. You don't really know how much you need. You just start something. Great. You have no foundation, then you're soon to fall. Like, and you're going to fall into the abyss and gain more weight back than you lost. We don't want that to happen. So we need to understand how much calories your body needs when you first come in. So we establish a caloric intake amount, usually a range depending on the person, but we establish a caloric intake amount. The second thing that we do is we establish a protein intake amount. How much protein do you need? Protein intake needs. Notice I say it's a need. What you need. Protein is not optional, it is essential. It is essential for you if you want a firm, toned body. It is essential for you to have protein. Protein are like bricks that build the house. Okay. If you want a nice brick, bump, 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 bump house, then you need protein. Okay. If you're working out, you're training, and all of that stuff, you need protein to recover, rebuild, and grow. You need it. And then hair, skin, and nails, and like all that stuff that you care about. You need it to build a strong, firm, toned body. Okay. Protein intake needs. Then we establish fat intake needs, dietary fat intake needs, right? Notice I said needs again. We establish a fat intake needs. Let me make this smaller so I can scoop this over here. All right. Then we establish fat intake needs. Why do we need a certain amount of fat? We need a certain amount of fat for hormone production and other wonderful things inside of the bodies for the systems of the bodies to operate appropriately. So we establish the fat intake needs, and then we backload with carbs to fill the rest of our calories. So the first thing we establish is how many calories. And then based on those calories, we go protein. How much protein do we need? That starts the calculations of calories. Then we go into fat intake needs. That adds to the calories. So we're trying to fill up those calories, right? With first protein, then fat, and then whatever's left over, we fill it with carbs. We backload it with carbs. Carbs are not bad. Who here has been told that carbs are bad? Maybe you've said it before that you need to avoid carbs. Be honest. I want to know who's here that carbs are bad. I mean,
They're a little shy in the chat.
I know. Don't be shy on me.
I definitely was told that growing up, but I didn't care. I love carbs. Pasta is my favorite. Same, Sydney.
Yeah, we got some
I
Italian
love a good
people.
noodle.
Got some Italian people around here. I know Lauren's Italian.
Oh, yeah.
What
That's why I
percentage of
talk with my hands.
what percentage of Italian are you?
Like 34%,
34. Linda, what percentage Italian are you?
25.
25%. There we go. Yeah, carbs are good. So carbs, I'm going to speak just briefly on carbs. Carbs are your body's preferred energy source. Carbs are great for you. They're really good. They give you energy. For all my moms out there and you're dealing with brain fog and stuff like that, you're struggling with stress and all that. Well, carbs are your friends, and you're probably living off of caffeine and cortisol. And that's how you get through the day. And that's not going to help you. You might even be hitting your protein goal, but because you're not eating full meals, you're not eating carbs and stuff like that, your thyroid function will end up tanking a little bit. You might even go into hypo world. That's not going to be a great place for you. So the carbs are super essential for you having energy. It's going to fuel your workouts. It's going to fuel your life. It's going to help you feel good. For any of you that wake up, do I have any people that wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just randomly? You have no idea, but you wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time, that's because your liver glycogen stores are low. And we can solve this problem by simply having some fruit and maybe a little bit of honey. You have a little bit of fructose at nighttime. You maybe around 8 o'clock or so, 7, 8. You have a little bit of fructose, and I would guarantee you after a couple of days, you probably won't wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because those liver, and this is for the person that's depleted in carbs, depleted in carbohydrates, which ends up depleting your liver glycogen stores and your muscle glycogen stores. So you end up waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on routine. And you're like, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just getting older. No, you're not just getting older. It's because you stopped eating carbs 20 years ago because somebody told you you needed to go keto, or you needed to do Atkins, or you needed to do all these things. And you've been doing it ever since, because every time you eat carbs, you end up gaining weight. And you don't understand that Every time you eat 1 gram of carb, you just retain 3 grams of water. So the scale might go up a little bit, but it's just water weight. It's not body fat. So I came here to set you free. Okay. I know that's like a mouthful, but I came to set you free. All weight gain and all weight loss is not all fat loss. Okay. We want to lose body fat. You don't care about weight. We want to lose body fat. And anytime the scale bumps up, your scale is going to bump up based on how much carbs you're eating, how good is your sleep. If you don't have a good night's sleep, the scale might bump up a little bit. And if you're on your menstrual cycle that week, the scale is going to bump up a little bit. So we don't live and die on the scale. We live and die based on this that I'm talking about right here, this baseline. We live and die based on our consistency over time with this baseline. Now, this is nutrition, okay? We're hanging out in nutrition world. The first thing that we start is with nutrition, and then we build out, pull this down here. We'll make it a little smaller.
You're doing great.
Thank you. I feel like my drawings are okay. And then we build out something called our NAT. All right. If you can tell me what NAT is in the chat, I'm going to send you a Starbucks gift card, but it can't be a client.
Somebody hop on that.
It can't be you, Sydney. I saw her. She's like, oh, I'm getting it.
Food. But anyway, I'm cleaning the kitchen, so
Tell me if you know what NAT is, and don't Google it, but you're going to get a Starbucks gift card.
Okay, you're saying NAT, but you spelled out NEAT.
NEAT, my bad.
Okay.
Anybody got it? Okay, I'll say it like this. If you're a client and you want to guess, and I haven't taught you yet, but you know, go for it. I'll give you an example. There's non. That's the first word. Going once.
Nobody wants a Starbucks gift card.
All right, we'll let the clients in now. Which client wants to know? Send you a gift card for Starbucks.
Sydney's all over it.
non-activity thermogenesis.
Say it again, Sydney.
Oh,
Non-activity thermogenesis and non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Good. Good job. All right. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's it. Or some people say training. Either way, thermogenesis is the word that we're looking for. So we build out non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is anything that you do every single day that is not dedicated working out or dedicated movement. Okay, this is normal movement patterns. This is playing with your kids. This is taking your kids to the park and you walk around a little bit, like whatever it is. This is walking, intentional movement. We, like every single one of our clients, they have a step target that they're supposed to be hitting based on where they are when they come in. Okay. This is, again, building a foundation. So what we do with our clients is not a cookie cutter approach where everybody walks 8 to 10,000 steps. Everybody eats this amount of calories. Everybody does this and that and the other. No, it's specific based on when they come in and they fill out their intake form. I'm looking at exactly what they do when they come in, and then I'm building off of that to build a baseline that they now know they can always go back to when they lose the weight, and so on and so forth. So we're building this out. We need to know like how many steps we're currently getting in normally, and then we need to have a number that we're hitting every single day, something to achieve every single day. For me, I'm just going to give you mine. For me, it's 10,000 steps a day. Every single day, I'm hitting 10,000 steps per day. That's just me. Okay. For you, you might check your Apple Watch. You might check what you're doing, and you're like, "Hey, I'm only getting in 3,000 steps a day." Great. Add 1,000 steps. You checked it for a week. Awesome. Now you know your average. You checked your Apple Health, whatever. I'm adding 1,000 steps. Now go to 4. Then the next week, go to 5. The next week, go to 6. The next week, until you get up to what our standard is. A standard for most Americans is going to be between 8 to 10,000 steps is a good spot to be in. It's a really good spot to be in. Okay. You can get away with sometimes getting around 6 to 8, but we really like to be around 8 to 10. Steps is going to help with insulin sensitivity. It's going to help with digestion. It's going to help with blood pressure. It's going to help with everything. I've done a teaching multiple times throughout the years. The most underrated exercise for fat loss is simply walking. It is the most underrated thing. And most of you, tell me in the chat, most of you have been told to lose weight, you need to do cardio. Anybody ever been told that before? I need to do cardio. I need to go run. I need to go get on the elliptical. How many of you have even done this like trifecta of starting on the elliptical, and then you go to the treadmill, and then you go to the bike, and you do different sessions, and that's your gym session where you're just doing cardio? I've seen that for years. people doing that. And it makes me sad that that's all you do. That's not your most effective amount that's going to lead you to effective fat loss. It's not it. So we want to build a baseline that's easy for everyone. Listen, unless you're Lieutenant Dan and you got no legs, then this fits you. If you have 2 legs, you can move your legs. You can get up and anybody know the old Christmas song, put one foot in front of the other. You know what I'm saying? Like that old
Oh yeah, the Feltmation or Claymation.
yeah, the old claymation Christmas movie thing that I used to watch all the time when I was a kid. But literally, you put one foot in front of the other and you be consistent with it. Okay. You just be consistent with it, but start where you are and then build from there. This builds the foundation. Now, the last piece, and I just call this the trifecta. Okay. This is the trifecta of building a baseline is simply hydration. If I can, what? Hydration. Is that right? Looks right. It's
You
hydration.
got it.
Okay, good. Hydration. Now, how do you know how much you're supposed to be drinking? You drink half your GBW, which is goal body weight, in ounces. The actual accurate formula is half your goal body weight in ounces plus 15. You literally it doesn't have to be perfect. You literally can just do half your body weight in ounces and you'll be golden. Okay. Not your total body weight, because if you have a lot of weight to lose, if you divide that by 2, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to die like drinking all this water. That's not what you use. You use your goal body weight, you drop that by half, you start there as a baseline. Hydration. If you can nail down these 3 things, understanding your energy needs, protein intake needs, fat intake needs, backload with carbs, build out a baseline of steps every single day, and hydration, I will guarantee you will lose anywhere between 10 to 15 pounds in your first 4 to 8 weeks. If you simply do those 3 things. Most people, I'm giving you this away for free for those of you who aren't clients. And then this is also helpful for clients because you're understanding what I'm doing with you. This is what we do inside of phase 1 of our system. We have 3 phases. This is phase 1. We're building out that baseline that takes all the guesswork out for you. And then you hit these targets and it changes your life. And we end up losing 10 to 15 pounds really quickly right off the top. And then once we build the baseline, guess what? We go into a fat loss phase and we really focus on that. Now, that's a lot of information. I know I've just overloaded you, but building this baseline is where we need to be. And I'll give you one more for an honorable mention. And honestly, it could be number 1 on the list, sleep. This is an honorable mission. It could literally go before calories. It could go before NEAT. It could go before hydration. Sleep is the number 1 thing that you can do on a regular basis that's going to help you across the board. If you don't sleep, your whole body's struggling. We all need to sleep. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about that, but you need to get, I think a recent study came out that said women actually would do better with somewhere around 8 to 11 hours of sleep. Like, I know that's a lot. And most of the ladies out there are like, I cannot ever do that. But if you can get anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of sleep, you're going to be winning. You're going to be winning. Now, last thing I'm going to tell you, because you might be saying, hey, David, all this sounds great. I understand the concept and I do need to build a baseline. Good. I'm glad you're here. But I don't understand. I don't know how many calories I need to eat. I don't know how much protein I need to take in. I don't know how much fat. I don't know how all this works. And it's kind of overwhelming to me. Well, I'm going to take care of it because next week I'm going to teach you exactly your caloric needs, your protein needs, and your fat needs, and how to backload with carbs. We're going to cover this section right here next week. So if we don't build this baseline, you will probably continue to look like these little up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're going to continue to struggle. And I don't want you to do that. So I'm trying to teach you right now to live this out. That's it. If you build a baseline to start from, then you will know where to fall back to. Once you lose weight, you'll know where to go to, because when you lose weight, you don't have to eat at the same caloric intake that you ate in to lose the weight. That's another misconception and a myth that's going to keep you stuck. So we don't want to keep you there. We want to get you to the next level. And that's why we need this baseline. All right. So we're going to open it up for Q&A.